Hello and welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey. On this episode, I speak to Dr. Jon Callegher about attracting young people to the construction industry and then retaining them once they enter the field. Callegher is the executive director of the Job Talks Research and Media Agency, and he spoke at the recent British Columbia Construction Safety Alliance Health and Safety Conference about what younger workers are looking for in a career path and how many of the traits regarded as university ready are also well suited to the skilled trades. He also added men and women have to be marketed to in different ways, and that companies need to precisely target young workers instead of sending out large-scale advertising campaigns that may not reach them. But before the interview, let's take a look at some of the top headlines from the Daily Commercial News and the Journal of Commerce. DCN staff writer Angela Gismondi has a story about an addition to an existing building at the University of Toronto's Innis College, which is designed by Montgomery System Architects. It will house offices, classrooms, an expanded Innis cafe and food service, a new library center, and rooftop space to the existing building, which is a Victorian house that was incorporated into two other buildings that were added to the college in the 1960s. That original project was designed by Diamond and Myers Architects. Economist John Clinkard has a story about the possible costly implications for new homes within Ottawa's emissions reduction plan. And John Bleasby's Inside Innovation column looks at how artificial intelligence adoption in the construction industry is, in his words, all about the data. From the West, Shannon Mineo has a story about how 2 years after a devastating fire that wiped out the town of Lytton in British Columbia, the rebuilding effort is stuck in limbo with no construction as yet started. And after many delays, including repairs to cracked concrete piers and replacement of signaling cables, the City of Edmonton and Transit announced the Valley Line Southeast LRT will open for passenger service on November 4th. The $1.8 billion, 13-kilometer low-floor line links Edmonton's Millwoods neighborhood with the downtown core. And that's it for the headlines. Up next is my interview with Dr. Jon Callegher about getting young people in the trades by talking to them where they are and on terms they want to hear. Enjoy. I'm here with
Jon Callegher, Executive Director of Job Talks.
And you were at the BCCSA's Health and Safety Conference, and you talked about how to retain and how to hire younger workers, and a lot of it was about marketing. So let's start with that. It seems to me, is my simplistic interpretation, that the people marketing to the kids have no idea what the kids want.
Yeah, I mean, I started upon this journey talking about marketing in the trades because I think there was a narrow understanding of what kids wanted, to your point. So they didn't know what they wanted, but it was more focused on the money, right? This idea that you can make a great salary in the trades and have a lot of stuff with it. And while that's true, if you're directing that message at young people, they're not so concerned about the money when thinking about a particular job. Some are, but a child doesn't want to become a veterinarian for the salary or a nurse for the salary. There are other reasons. And by the way, we don't really like people who talk about their salary.
Right, good point.
And yet that's the we're using that as the most compelling message to enter a field.
One of the things I found interesting is you highlighted two different Ontario ads about getting the trades. And one, they didn't intend it to be negative, but for a bunch of reasons in the audience, people thought it was negative. We can explain why. And then the other one was much more positive, and you can explain, this is an audio medium, but you can explain how the message came across in each of them and why it was counterproductive or productive.
Great. So the first ad that I showed was a video campaign, commercial campaign, that showed the trades with a theme of feeling pride in their work. And the word pride in 30 seconds was, I would say, forced on you 5 times. The ad, as members of the audience pointed out, was also very dark visually. And when you could not see people's eyes, because it's so dark, and that people were looking sort of tough. And the idea there is tough doesn't translate as well as you might think. People can see it as intimidating or even a bully, right? Even though that's not intended. And then I contrasted that with another ad that showed that the trades are bright. So lots of bright colors, young people smiling, a variety of careers, and talked about opportunities for advancement and personal growth and taking care of your family and more. And that's a message that was derived from data that suggests that those are more things that young people want. And unfortunately, pride, as important as it is for young people, they're already quite proud.
They're plenty proud.
Yeah.
They're not Gen X.
We're not
proud
Gen
of
X.
anything.
Exactly. As I said, 7th place, you get a trophy. And the opposite of pride is actually shame. And young people aren't feeling shame.
And another thing you mentioned, you kind of broke down different groups of people in workers, and comfortable was one of the euphemisms used, and that was usually every sort of factor. Trades fit into that for a bunch of different reasons.
Yeah, so a huge segment of the workforce that in skilled trades is this group that we identified that we call comfortable. And I'm glad you pointed out the title because it's grounded in particular by work-life balance. That particular benefit separates many skilled trades careers from other careers, right? So that's an important insight there. There is, you could say you could make a lot of money. You could also include the messaging that you also have time to enjoy what you spend that money on by having time for yourself on weekends and evenings. And by the way, if you have to work extra, you get paid for doing that, which
And
many people in salary jobs cannot say.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. You said statistically they tend to settle down sooner because they have the means to do so.
Absolutely. I mean, when you don't have college or university tuition to pay back, or if you did have a trade with college track, I mean, the tuition is still a little lower. The bottom line is you're not trying to find a job for many, many months, sometimes years. You're in demand, so you're paying back that debt, putting money in your pocket, paying your credit cards, and the next thing you're thinking of in your early 20s, instead of paying back tens of thousands of dollars in tuition debt, is that down payment for that home or that vehicle or things that many other people who happen to incur a lot of tuition debt, they're dealing with, and skilled trades people don't.
And one of the other things you mentioned is, and you said, you preempted this with the data doesn't lie. You explained the differences between men and women in terms of the surveys. And women, I think it was, they wanted respect, and men wanted to be, if not leaders, they want to be part of a team that was going to win.
Yes.
So maybe you could kind of go into detail with that.
Yeah, thanks. A very interesting study about the differences between men and women, and one area is what they value. And women, as it turns out, compared to men, are much more likely to value, if you organize all the different statements into themes, summarizing, they value earning respect and building self-confidence. And there are all kinds of reasons for that, but the bottom line is that's what the data show. They also value making money too, but not as much as earning respect and building their self-confidence. And we don't talk about that when promoting skilled trades to women. And if you did, that would give you an edge. Men, in contrast to saying, you get leadership opportunities, my argument is not everybody wants to be a leader,
Right.
Or is fit cut to be a leader. But it turns out that everybody wants to win, or be part of a winning team. And when it comes to what people value, men happen to be much more, they place a greater weight on that. And so the lesson there is, in your recruitment initiatives, when focusing on men, how can you get them to see that by joining your company, becoming part of your sector, they're going to win professionally and at life.
And you also mentioned that maybe we aren't marketing in the right places, not just the right content, but it's not, let's say a student or just formerly a student, they're going to be in an apartment, for instance. So they're not going to see your ad in the suburbs.
Right. So there's this concept in marketing generally called spray and pray. Spray your message out and pray that it lands on the right people. That is great for companies that have a lot of money, but if you have a limited budget, understand your target audience, not only who they are, what they aspire to, what they care about, what their challenges are, but where do they live? Where can they see your message? Either in the physical space, what areas do they live in? Where can you place an ad? Either in their building or on their journey to wherever they're going, their most common route, or in the digital space. What kind of websites do they frequent? Whether it's the general social media websites, the big ones, or particular niche websites that maybe even at a lower cost, you can reach them with your message. But you won't know unless you ask them. Ask your current employees who you want more of, what they like to do, where they live, how they spend their time, and where they were before they came to you as an employee, and use that information, that data, to strategically place your promotional material. Because if you don't, another industry is going to do it.
Mm-hmm. And finally, you talked about mentorship and what the older generations in the trades or otherwise can do.
Yes, so a big takeaway from talking with groups about mentoring, a challenge is this idea of mentoring a young person is going to take my job away in the future. Why would I mentor someone who's going to take my job?
Yeah.
And I really thought hard about that. And my message is it's okay to be self-interested, but just ask yourself a different question. Think about how your mentorship of someone else can enhance your professional legacy beyond the buildings that you help create or maintain, which in the future at some point will be redone or torn down. Your legacy is in how many people you can teach to do work as good as you. How can it enhance you professionally, provide you with job security and other opportunities when you go out into the world and are able to say, I've trained people when talking, say, to different stakeholders or trying to climb the ladder in any way. Very important discussion there on mentorship. I'll just throw in, I heard in some sectors, when it's applicable to do so, they will provide opportunities for advancement, not based on seniority, but based on how many people that candidate, that employee can train or is willing to train. How many tasks can they help others learn versus simply how long have they been with the company. Controversial one, sometimes not easy to do in a unionized shop, but worth considering.
Okay, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Warren. I appreciate it.
And that's it for this episode of the Construction Record Podcast. You can hear us on Amazon Music, Apple Music, and Spotify, as well as on the Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce websites. Thanks for listening.